Hey guys, I'm Randy Unger, and this is another edition of Unger the Radar, where we talk all things film. And with me today, I have celebrated film score composer Brian Tyler of the true story film. It's called Clouds, and it's a true story of young cancer-stricken musician Zach Sobiech. The film is great, the music is great, and Brian Tyler's great. So we got Brian Tyler right here. How's it going, Brian?
Very good. Going good here. Thank you for having me.
Sure, man. Yeah, 2 years ago, I had you on the show. We did a phoner. You were promoting
Right.
Crazy Rich Asians back then. And so that was 2 years ago. I'm curious.
Pre-Zoom.
Yeah.
Pre-Zoom.
I didn't even know what Zoom was back then. But
Yeah, I think COVID kind of made Zoom the household name that it is.
indeed. But you know, aside from this year, how have you been?
Oh, it's been great. It's been a busy year. That's for sure. Things got kind of moved around because of COVID, and certain movies got delayed and sessions and whatnot. But it turned out to be an amazing year of some very diverse and very cool projects. And one of them obviously being Clouds. And it was a bunch of films that I was doing kind of snuck right under the radar in terms of, well, not under the radar, but under the, under the, right when the lockdown happened, like filming. I was on so many films, I think like 4 films that filmed right up to the shutdown.
Yeah.
And some of them were out of the country and barely got back in the United States. Redeeming Love, for instance, and Fast and Furious, and Those Who Wish Me Dead, and Clouds, of course. And I remember Clouds was still filming, I think the week before, something, or days before, and same as Redeeming Love, right up to maybe the day before. It was just one of those really wild times where. And I was shooting the movie that I'm directing, and so the project I'm directing, Are We Dreaming? So it was it was crazy. I remember we were doing night shoots, and things were going a little bit sideways. But anyway, yeah. So Clouds, they finished that, and the interesting part of that was really that I'd just done 5 Feet Apart last year with Sin Baldoni, the director.
Okay.
And so it was almost like we didn't stop working on projects, because in the case of Clouds, I wasn't just scoring the film, I was producing the songs, and it's kind of acts as a musical because you have songs throughout the film, because of course the film is about Zach, who, the true life story, as you said, of this 70-year-old songwriter that passed away from cancer. And it's really about the last kind of year of his, he's in high school. It's kind of that last year of him writing the song Clouds that became so famous.
Right.
And so I was involved a lot earlier in the process, and I was attached to the filming of it, because you had to work with the actors and had to make sure that they can play the instruments and sing the songs and do it on camera. And then you had to produce the songs. And that's before you do all this, before you even get to writing the score. So it was a double kind of very interesting project from that perspective.
Right.
And so it was really like the way COVID landed was very fortunate, because of course before COVID, we were doing what we needed to be with being around people, which is working on set and working with actors and recording the songs that way. And then the score was a score that by design was always going to be something that needed to be something where I played every instrument. It was kind of in the spirit of Zach. I wanted to do it where I sang all the kind of ethereal vocal parts. I played the guitars, I played the pianos, anything that I could do around here. So Nate Alexander played, and just, but it had to be a very pared down thing. It wasn't an orchestral score, in other words. It's more like doing a Radiohead record or something like that. And so it became a super personal project, and something that I mean, like, there's so much to talk about, but it was like the most personal project I've ever done. But we were very blessed that the craziness of the schedule because of COVID landed, we were able to actually get it done.
Okay. And so wearing all those hats musically, you know, playing all those instruments, it sounds like in a way Zach's soul entered your body and you kind of took over
Well,
musically in a way.
yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is that we really wanted to, the idea for me was, since Zach was this burgeoning songwriter, musician, and he was just at the beginning of his career.
Yeah.
And he's stricken with cancer, and it's just, just so sad. And we, I I wanted to do what I thought, if Zach kept, going on as a musician and developing his career as he wanted to, and developing, and he listened to so many different kinds of music and was always searching and wanting to learn, what would he have done? So it was almost like, what would Zach have done if he scored the film?
Right.
And so the idea behind that was that, the family was involved with the film, and his parents and his sister and brother, and everyone was like and also Sammy, who wrote all the songs with him, his best friend and his girlfriend, and everyone kind of, his whole circle was involved in the movie, and they really wanted to make sure that we had access to anything we needed. And one of the great things they did was they provided, access to his room, and what kind of guitars he was using, and what music was he listening to. And I was able to know what was he was making for his own mixtapes, what he would listen to. And this is during that last 2 years of his life. And it was such an incredible kind of Rosetta Stone for us to communicate. In that I could listen to music and feel like I know what he's feeling here as he's listening to this, because it's one of those kind of things that we could share. And I let that be kind of a guide. And that's why it has this very honest kind of humble style recording, very like, it's very indie, ethereal, and like, and straight from the heart. I the instruments he loved, kind of that ambient atmospheric guitar, really cascading distant pianos and bells. He loved bells, like church bells, glockenspiels, dulcet tones, things like that. They made their way in the score. And also vocals that were very much, like Radiohead, just very much from the heart. It's not polished or anything. And I didn't sing lyrics, but I sing a lot on the score, and a lot of it's falsetto, a lot of it, but it's straight from the heart, very much, with spring reverbs and kind of that indie style recording. I'm looking at my guitars right now. They're still there that I was using, the Fender Telecaster, the Stratocaster, an old Epiphone from the 60s, all these different things. So, and then also he loved vintage synths and kind of new synth wave that was kind of a throwback to 1982, 83, but like Postal Service and all that. And so that made its way into the score, but it had to be analog. Didn't want to have anything polished or in the computer or in the box. So it was really recorded like an album, but as a score. And so when I sat down to write the theme, that was the most important part, because I mean, you can imagine the responsibility of writing a theme for someone that has recently passed, that his entire family and everyone that knew him is looking at it. It has to rise to that bar of, the impossible bar, how do you represent someone that meant it's someone's theme, it's his theme. Yeah. So I just kind of let go. I didn't think about studios or expectations or producers or anything along those lines. I worked closely with Justin Baldoni, the director, and everyone was great on the film, studio, producers, and everybody, but I had to really go into the zone of what would Zach want. Gotcha. And so that was that whole first piece on the soundtrack, which is like a 9-minute piece, is just it's very much my first instinct and go, just stream of consciousness, channeling as much as I can. It's, the literal, like the last 2 minutes of it, even the choice of instrumentation, I didn't even think of it at the time, but the idea of church bells in the distance with this cascading up and down ostinato piano, and then me singing these very, very like high, like distant vocals with granular affected harps and like all these things just swirling around. I didn't even realize it's actually the thing that usually represents heaven in
Right.
like traditional film score. But I didn't even think of that. I just was thinking this is what Zach likes. And so as it turns out, it has this notion. So many people have said to me, it sounds like this communication with Zach. It really feels like clouds are opening up, and and you see Zach there, but that's just kind of in a way the either coincidence or the deliberation of actually going through the exercise and committing to doing something that is completely of the soul and heart instead of trying to think it through too much, and I just let go, and that's what happened.
Let it flow.
Yeah.
So obviously it's a huge musical undertaking. What were some challenges you faced bringing the music to life?
Yeah, well, kind of what I was just it's bringing it to life was something that I it was that it was almost the wrestling with my own mind and letting go was so much a part of it, because I really wanted this. I've never wanted a piece for a very specific audience, which was about probably not, in terms of his family.
Mm-hmm.
That's who I wanted it to really resonate with. So from that perspective, it was it was weighing on me.
Okay.
And I'm so, and even Justin was so close with him. I mean, Justin was a friend, the director. He spent much of the last days, the last year, so much of that time with Zach, because he did a documentary on him. So the director of the movie is the same person that knew him, like it really like was so close with him and his family too. And so like everyone involved had kind of a head start in having an emotional tie and knowing Zach personally, and then of course all knowing each other. So I was kind of the new person.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I was the one with kind of having to capture the soul essence of this musician songwriter. And here I am, a musician songwriter composer, and so it was like, it was almost like the baton was like handed to me to run with from Zach, and it's just not something, it's that doesn't happen when you're dealing with Iron Man or something. It's a different thing. You want all the Marvel fans to love it. You want the director to love it, and the Kevin and everyone, to make sure that it really fits the movie as well as it can, and you strive for that, and but it's a different thing. You in the back of your head, that this is a movie, and this is, and Clouds is not just a movie. Clouds is a movie and a love letter to a human being that was gone too soon.
Yeah. And you said that this is your most personal film to date, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's just such an incredibly emotional experience, and writing something that I felt, I don't write music. I don't write music I write music to write music, and I've always been a musician to be a musician. I never got into it for any other reason. If you're a musician starting out and your goal is to, I don't know, make money or fame, or you're a crazy person. Like, that is the two worst reasons to get into writing, to music. You should get into music because it's about the music and what you're saying, and that you can stand behind it and be proud of it. And in this sense, it was it was so personal, because I was so honored that this task was given to me, of all people, and Justin was someone that has always loved my more emotionally salient music. And even though, and I kind of, and that's always been my wheelhouse. Even before movies, I was always very much I was much more of like a melody, emotional kind of composer than like an action person. Although I love that too. It's not that. It's just that is kind of the wheelhouse of where I really. And Justin always recognized that. That's why he had me do 5 Feet Apart, which was another very emotionally, emotional film. And that's becoming more of a thing now with Crazy Rich Asians and working with Taylor Sheridan on Yellowstone and all these things. So, and Those Who Wish Me Dead, of course. But I still love doing all everything, because I'm a huge movie fan too. But just it is so personal to me, and because of the responsibility that was given to me.
Okay. So yeah, you've obviously had a very long and great career, and it's still going. And you actually filmed. You scored a film with one of my all-time favorite composers, Danny Elfman, on Age of Ultron. What was that experience like?
Same with me. I grew up with Danny Elfman albums, and I grew up with Danny Elfman albums before. When I was a little kid, I kind of caught the tale of Boingo Boingo too, and before he really had started, when he did it, then I remember when he did Pee Wee Herman, and I loved that movie so much. And I love that score. And then Batman, and he just kind of with Tim took off, and then I got to know him a little bit before we worked on Avengers together. We did a show together, a film music concert, and just would see him around. You kind of get to know. It's funny. It kind of ends up being down to I don't know, 20 or 30 people that you kind of just that composers that you tend to just run into more than that. You tend to go to the same events and things. Right. and so there was a time when I kind of I really got to know like Hans and John Williams and Giacchino and Danny and Tom Newman and all. There's kind of this circle, and they're great. They're all great, and they're friends, and I respect all of them so much, and really like them personally. And Danny's awesome. He was doing these things where there's one point there's like he's doing this thing with his trumpet that was like ridiculous. Like it was like it was so high. Okay. It just like way like murder range, just like and like it's like you may want to put that on a C trumpet instead of a B flat trumpet, like that. Just give him a break. No. And Danny's like, you want him to be on the edge of not being able to play it, like he loved it. It's like a really cool thing. Like, and I remember taking that, and like I've kind of incorporated that into part of my life. Like, just push it. Like I was always so careful about, I've always been because I played in orchestras too. Like I was always someone that like really was careful about making it so it was easier to play. And you should do this. Like I'll pay attention to the fingering and what's an open string on a violin or a cello. So you're not doing things that are awkward, or you don't have brass or woodwinds playing really bizarre key modulations that make it like, but like in terms of pushing the speed or the range, the range of brass or the speed of strings, for instance, or the speed, it's like the sound of being just on the edge of the train, like the wheels falling off the car kind of thing. That was a philosophy that I thought was so cool. But it was wild. I mean, like anything, even doing any Marvel project is fantastic. I'm just a huge comic fan and a Danny fan, so it was cool. He wasn't on very long. He was at the end of the movie, and it was like, I would have been fun to do more, like kind of have more of a thing, but it was more of like a stopgap, and like in terms of the crazy reshoots and everything, and the movie was coming out. So it was, I probably worked on the movie for like 10 or 11 months, or, so probably 9 of those 8 months I was just on my own,
Okay. Was he Was he? Would you consider him a mentor?
Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
Yeah, he was a mentor before he was a mentor. Like, yeah, for me, I remember picking out, like transcribing the Batman suite, like all
Yeah.
of it when I
Nice.
was a kid, and I used to do that a lot with John. It was just, James Horner, I did that a lot with, and I would pick apart how, Maurice Jarre and I would get in there and kind of figure out orchestration, like what's the style that they're doing, what's the tonal colors, um, and a lot. I mean, that's another thing. I was telling Tom Newman. Tom Newman is a good friend. I was telling him, like, oh man, he's so humble. Like, guys, it's like, yeah, the way like his strings were, and this or that, and how the voicings, and I would painstakingly like take that stuff down, and it's like anything. Like I do that with drummers. I would chart out everything that like Billy Cobham or Neil Peart or Vinnie Colaiuta would do. And then like I worked with Vinnie Colaiuta not too long ago. He played drums on a jazz thing that I did, a big band jazz thing. And I was like, oh man, I was going through like this obsessive, like this drum part, and you're doing it in like 11/8, and it's the most bananas thing. It's called Attack of the 10,000 Foot Pizza, and it's like it's so progressive and fucking psycho, excuse my language, that it was like I was like, I have to take this down. It was amazing. And I was telling him, he's like, he just thought these people, they have I don't realize how much, if they know how much influence they have on young musicians, and they're so inspiring and so kind, and anyway, so that goes for Danny too, yeah.
And in addition to Danny, I know you have a rather interesting, complex relationship with the late great Jerry Goldsmith and some of his music.
My
I know that you replaced him on his final score for
Yeah.
Timeline.
Yeah.
I know that you also you mixed, or you did something with his theme for the Universal logo.
Yeah, I completely did a new version of it. Yeah. So I can take you through the Jerry Goldsmith tale in
Sure.
I'll truncate it as much as possible because it's long. So yeah, look, Jerry Goldsmith, another hero, beyond hero.
Mm.
I do my percussion section in a way that is so inspired by Patton and Planet of the Apes. It's just so, and also his use of like tape delay with trumpets and things that James Horner also kind of picked up in Aliens and all that stuff. And that kind of tape delays I have a million that's an obsession of mine, tape echo and tape to like analog. And I use it all the time with instruments that percussion and stuff. So anyway, and he's just a beautiful writer. I'm a huge Star Trek fan as well.
Sure.
So here's the crazy thing. So my first Jerry Goldsmith experience in terms of directly connecting to Jerry in a way was Star Trek, actually, because I scored Star Trek Enterprise, and I wanted to nod to Jerry in the score. I did a bunch of them, and I remember kind of incorporating like a bit of the Enterprise and doing this, and there was the thing I was doing with the Borg, and anyway, and so his movie scores that were so beautiful, for the Star Trek films, and of course the theme for Next Generation, and the theme for Voyager, and then on and on and on, so I when I was on the stage conducting Star Trek, I got the phone call to meet with Richard Donner for Timeline. Now, here's the weird thing. I had heard that he was being let go on Timeline. And I actually signed an online petition to make sure that didn't happen.
I think I remember that. That was back in 03, 02, 03?
Yeah, it's 03, yeah.
Okay.
And it was like early days of like online petition. If someone can find that, I'm on that online petition.
I'm gonna look for it
And
right after this interview.
yeah, yeah, it's totally crazy. So I saw, and then I was like, it's so weird. It was almost like the day after or something, and I got this call, and I was also scoring The Hunted for William Friedkin at that time, also at Paramount.
Okay.
So when it was, you know, for whatever reason it wasn't working, you know, and Jerry's probably, he was probably really sick at the time. I don't really know exactly,
Yeah.
you know, but whatever it wasn't working out, and so they called me in, and to meet with the director, and I just done Children of Dune, and they got the hold of that score and started temping it like bananas all
That's
over
a great
timeline
score,
like
by the way.
that.
That's one of my favorites.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, they were just like, this is exactly what we're looking for. Like, you know, it is orchestral. There's nothing like, it is classic, you know, kind of. And in fact, my Children of Dune score in a way is actually kind of a throwback to like 60s Jerry.
Okay.
So anyway, it's all very interesting. So I got called in, got hired to Timeline. I did it. They said, "You want to hear Jerry's score?" I said, "Absolutely not, because it's going to make me feel like this big, and I won't want it." So I just did the score, like totally just went for it. I kind of did it as a tribute to Jerry, very Jerry-ish, you know, like thinking what he would have done during that time and during that era, you know, and maybe he was doing things more modern or something. There's some madrigal things that I heard to like avoid. But anyway, so it was great. Turned out great. Really loved doing it. It was like the score sounded fantastic. The script because the orchestra was so great. It was unbelievable, you know. And conducted it at Sony. And anyway, so then at the Star Trek, there's like a Star Trek or Paramount / like holiday party that year, and it was, or I don't know, it was a holiday party. It was like some kind of celebration. I don't. It was like at the Kodak Theater. Anyway, I ran into him. And and so it was like, and he was so cool. Like I was like, you know, I'm like, I'm such a fan, but then I just like replaced him on a score. It was weird, you know. And but he was just so cool. And the first thing he's like, "Don't worry about it, kid." Like something like yeah. He's like, look, he's like, everyone goes through it. You're gonna go through it. Everyone goes through it. He's like, you know, it wasn't too long ago. I replaced my buddy Randy on Randy Newman is what he's talking about. And to figure out Randy Newman on Air Force One, he's like, yeah, you know, it's all good. Don't worry, you know. Yeah. But I had no idea how sick he was. And he passed away, and I don't think it was too much longer after that. It was really so sad. And then
February 2004.
Yeah, that's right. So it was probably like 5 months later. I don't know. And then it continued. So I did the next thing I did was Alien versus Predator, Requiem, and all tributes to Jerry and Alan Silvestri, also another friend. So he's
awesome.
Alan's one of my favorite. Yeah,
So
he's one of my favorite people. And so I did that. So I was like, wow, this kind of Jerry Brian connection. There's something going on here, because people are hearing something in my music that must be. Then all of a sudden, another year goes by, and then Sylvester Stallone calls me. He's like, you know, my composer Jerry Goldsmith for the First Blood Rambo films, you know, he passed away, as you know, and I was listening to music, and it sounds like you channel Jerry. Like, it sounds like Jerry to me, and I would love for you to do Rambo. So now all of a sudden I'm doing Rambo, which I did all the Rambo films to the last Rambo. I did, you know, did those. And then all of a sudden Universal calls, and they're like, we're doing the 100, was it the 100th? It was the anniversary. I forget what anniversary it was of anyway, the Universal Studios, Universal Pictures, and we were going to do a big, it's a centennial, like do a new version of the logo, reorchestrated with new parts. So I wrote that whole like cadence, kind of combined it with Jerry's original thing, and then I conducted that, did a choir this time with percussion. And so the one that you kind of like, we've gotten used to knowing, it's actually mine from
it's
I think
enhanced.
2000. Yeah, it's just different. It's just slightly different music. The chords are a little different, and like and it's just a little bigger, and
Okay.
it's kind of taking that theme and just making it's like a tribute to it.
Mhm.
Such an honor to that was like 10 or 11 years ago. So
Okay.
I hear it. I almost every time I watch a movie from Universal, and also I do so many movies at Universal, so I constantly um and um
Hmm.
and I know I'm forgetting another Jerry connection that has happened. Oh well, yeah, I scored the Mummy, which he scored the last
Oh,
Mummy. So I did another nod to Jerry Goldsmith when
crazy.
you see the book from the original, like there's the book, the Mummy book that's from the Brendan Fraser movie that pops up in the Tom Cruise version,
Okay.
and I do the Jerry Goldsmith Mummy theme there. And
Oh,
anyway,
that's awesome.
so
So that's at least four
yeah,
franchises that.
yeah, Star Trek, Mummy, Aliens, Rambo, yeah, and then the Universal logo. Yes, so yeah, like 4 or 5. Yeah.
That's so weird.
Um,
Awesomely weird.
yeah. Yeah. It's very. I mean, there must be something to it because it's way beyond coincidence at this point. So there's probably something that certain people, that directors that have their composers that just like listening to, that they somehow put us together. I'm not sure, but
Hmm.
it
Yeah,
seems to happen a lot.
the executives at Paramount and Universal basically think that you were the new Goldsmith. It's
Yeah, it kind of well that was the thing, and Sly as well. He really loved Jerry so much, and of course now I've done 7 films. I don't know how many I've done with Sly, with Stallone. All the Expendables movies and all that, which the Expendables sounds like that theme sounds like a Jerry Goldsmith score to me.
sure.
And it's just it's when I do certain kinds of like action or whatever, I tend to go for that
Hmm.
that thing. I think, and I think definitely, like, talk to Giacchino about this too. I think his music is definitely very influenced by Jerry as well.
Oh, sure.
Um,
Well, Star Trek,
and
of course.
yeah, it kind of has that, like, the brass, the way it's used,
Yeah,
and
it's another
kind of
nod,
this.
I'd say. Another nod to Gold.
Yeah, it's cool, super cool. I love Mike.
Cool. All right, man. Well, I'm just curious. Are there any upcoming projects that you can discuss, or,
Yeah,
Cool.
absolutely. I just finished up. We just recorded in England, actually,
Hmm.
London, more specifically, Fast and Furious 9,
Nice.
which is like the most kind of dramatic. It actually incorporates this, like, a major, like, new theme, and
Huh.
like character driven. It's like it has to me, it's almost like it's interesting at this kind of late in the game of this miniseries to have something this major kind of change in terms of thematic ideas. Very like brass and strings, and very kind of classic, almost Godfather like, but like this movie, in a sense, musically, it's kind of like when Empire Strikes Back introduced the Imperial March theme.
Oh, wow.
They're
Yeah.
like, oh, it's like it's kind of this. There's like definitely like a gritty darkness to it that's different, and like
Okay.
really, and it just I'm really excited about it.
That's exciting because that's really
Yeah,
Hobbs and Shaw was very cartoony. That was almost like a comic book movie.
right.
So this is
Yeah,
a
I
little
mean,
more.
this well, yeah, this is like, I mean, it's so cool. Justin Lin's back. It's just a great movie. It's just great. And it was, we worked really hard. I worked on the score for a long time and wrote a lot of music, because when you're doing it, the movie can be longer. We probably recorded 3 hours or something like that. It's akin to doing like an Avengers,
Mm.
the scale of doing that much music, because the movies have really become so score heavy, where they kind of started the opposite. It was kind of a little bit lighter. You'd have a lot of needle drops. There still are great songs and great tunes in this movie for sure, but it's really like the score is throughout, and it's a tapestry, and these movies have epic length, and the score is epic length, and also you score more because you don't they really, Justin really shoots a lot, and there's so much there, and you almost have to like cut it down. but he's such a efficient director
Okay.
that you really want to so you end up scoring really everything. Then there's Those Who Wish Me Dead, which is Taylor Sheridan, the director of Yellowstone and writer Sicario and all that, and amazing. Those Who Wish Me Dead. It's like a tone poem, classical, almost avant-garde, classical, modern, classical score.
Okay.
A lot of ostinatos and boxes and arpeggiations and long brass lines, but a lot of woodwinds doing these like really ethereal overtone textural chords and
Sounds
like
like
heart-wrenching kind of like but it's like emotional version. So yeah, but the way that Jerry would with Eva Parrott and like different modern composers, how they would use strings and woodwinds and things as textural kind of atmospheric motors and moving, and John Adams, it kind of almost could be a concert piece, a modern classical concert piece type of thing. Really interesting. The movie, Taylor is like none other as a director. He's in a league by himself. Then I have then there is then there's Are We Dreaming, which is the most ambitious thing I've ever done in my life. So which is a journey through space-time from the beginning of time to 17 billion years in the future on the other side of the universe. And I'm directing it, and it is a complete immersive blend or hybrid of a cinematic kind of like IMAX style experience and a concert.
Okay.
And it's neither, and it's standing, and it is like you were on a ship and you launch into time space, and it's just, if you think of it, Fantasia meets 2001: A Space Odyssey, you get 5% of kind of the idea.
Very
but
trippy.
extremely, yeah, it's trippy, it's psychedelic, it's emotional, you cry, you kind of can't believe what's happening. It's a visual, it's the visuals look like what music sounds, and it's all music. It's a musical. It's extremely difficult and ambitious to do because it's so much vis effects and shot in so many countries, and in a way that I'm fortunate that we were able to continue through COVID, because I've been working on it for over a year, and it's different every night. What's shot and everything that ends up being is 6 hours, and so what you see is it's different every night, and it's 2 hours and 15 minutes, but it's different every single night, because the journey, so the beginning and the end point are the same, but the journey is different. And so you have to shoot like you have to shoot and finish like a 6 hour movie. It's 6 hours and 22 minutes right now. And then within there, so you can go any particular night as an experience, because it's not a movie. You go as an experience, and you have a completely different, and you'll know 2 nights will ever be the same. That's the idea, is that we can do it forever without it ever repeating itself.
And what is it like directing as opposed to scoring?
It's great. It kind of dawned on me. I was on set at night doing a night shoot and looking at, we shot at anamorphic lenses and getting them out, and it was really weird. I was really far into the project, and I was like, wait, I'm directing. What? How did this happen? It's really, but I've always been so tied to the film process. Even when I was younger, when I was learning to write music, I would shoot. Even as a kid, I would shoot film, direct, like edit. So I learned from my grandfather, storyboarding, perspective. I learned lenses and shooting and drafting and blocking and set design, all those things. I learned to develop film even back then. It was like on the edge of when you'd still cut film. So my first editing wasn't digital. It was actually cutting film.
Okay.
And so it was always something, and I always wrote scripts and stuff as much as I wrote music. It's just growing up, and it just happens to be I fell into, like, music has always been my biggest passion. But it was it's definitely like a learning process doing it from the technical side. But even with vis effects and things, I'm the first Tyler that didn't go into visual arts as my career. Like, my father, painter, architect, visualist, my grandfather, art director, of 10 Commandments and all the DeMille films, and so like on and on, all the, even so it goes back and back. So my background is actually visual arts as a Tyler. I'm like actually the black sheep doing music. So in a sense, when it comes to even vis effects or doing perspective or modeling or doing things in space where you really want to make it accurate when you're going through a nebula, and making sure the perspective of going through the event horizon of a black hole makes sense when you kind of get the sense of motion and speed, and all those things are kind of things that I grew up with kind of really as a big astronomy kid, and also just being around visual arts so much, it felt really natural. And then working with actors and whatnot, that's I did a lot of musicals and plays and stuff throughout my life, so it all kind of, it makes sense. But of course it's a huge undertaking, and you learn a lot during the process. But I love it. And you could go with your first instinct, because it is so pure. Like it is 100% me, there is no second guessing. It is my best work because of the idea of just really and I love scoring. And what that is that you are trying your best to bring to life someone else's narrative that's already there.
Yeah.
So this is the first time I'm actually telling the story, doing my own narrative. Like I'm writing music for my own narrative. The connection, the synergy is like a 1-to-1 ratio. When I do a visual, I know exactly, like I do vis effects. I learned Blender and Cinema 4D and all that. So I don't, like, if there's something and I need a rack focus on an abstract going through a wormhole, and then whatever, or a cloud goes by and then there's a mountain, and I need a portal that opens up, and there's I don't have to explain it. I can just I know exactly what it needs to be, and it's that direct 1-to-1. The same mind is doing the music as the visual, and it kind of the sum of that ends up being something that's really intentional, and you don't lose anything in the translation, kind of is. So it's a unique thing, I think, and I'm really excited, and the reaction's been amazing.
What's the name of the project?
It's called Are We Dreaming?
Are We Dreaming? Sounds awesome. Really heady, and
thank you.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's cool. Nice, man. Any other projects you want to talk about, or?
Yeah, I mean, those are the ones coming up in the next in the near future. There's the next year. There's some more coming next year that I haven't started yet, like Escape Room and whatnot. But and the new Yellowstone is going to be great from what I'm reading in the scripts. But it's going to be a great 2021, and I think we have a kind of a new start here in the country as well, which is great, and very happy about that this weekend. And hopefully we really get to move on and get to see each other in person real soon.
That would be nice. That would be great.
Yeah, for sure. Huh?
Fingers
I'm
crossed.
ready. Yeah, for sure.
So
we'll get there. We'll get there.
Clouds is on Disney Plus right now, but how can people hear the music? How can they hear the score, the soundtrack?
Right, so the soundtrack just came out. So it's iTunes, Spotify, any kind of streaming thing, and also there is the Clouds theme. If you want to see how I recorded it, it's actual recording session music video of every part that I played. It's on my YouTube page. Just look up Clouds theme by Brian Tyler. It's also on the Disney Vivo like their music page.
Right.
And it's something I'm really proud of. Eris Jalil shot it, who's my cinematographer actually in Are We Dreaming.
Okay.
He shot it, and it just was like, we really wanted to capture
Hmm.
what it, what recording a theme like that is, and you capture the emotion of it. It's like right on camera. It's very raw, and it's one of the things that I think as a musician I'm most proud of, showing how something was done sonically and visually. I think it brings a lot of, sheds a lot of light on how, what the theme means to me, and how I wrote it.
Yeah, you definitely put a lot of heart and soul into this, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, Brian.
Right on, man. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, so guys, please do check out Clouds, now out on Disney Plus. It's based on a true story. It's amazing. It's great for the whole family. It's moving, it's emotional, it's sad, but it's also hopeful. So just, check it out. It's a great film. And Brian, I want to thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
So guys, I want to thank everyone for watching. I'm Randy Unger, and this has been Unger the Radar. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much.